Welcome to Virtual Lunch, everybody. I'm Marlys Arnold, your host, and we're doing something completely different, kind of inspired a little bit by our networking event that we did a couple weeks ago on Air Meet. So those of you who joined us for that, thank you. That seemed to be a big hit. So, and we're going to be doing that again, where we have just the networking event. But I thought, let's open up the conversation. I also, finally, a week ago, got onto Clubhouse. So for those of you that are on Clubhouse, you can look for me. Thanks to Marco, by the way. He was one of my very first followers. But anyway, so, I wanted to just open it up and have a discussion. So we'll see how this goes today. I see Rama was here. Actually, Rama typed in the weather report for us. She always gives us the weather report from San Diego. I love it. She actually was here about 5 minutes early to tell us that in San Diego, it's cloudy and 54. Yes, it does get cool and cold in San Diego. So, well, we're right about there with you in the 50s, Rama, but at least we have sun here in Kansas City today. Silvana is here from Sao Paulo, Brazil. So, Silvana, it's always so wonderful to have you. So glad you could make it today. So go ahead and type in the chat as we go along. Let us know where you're joining in from. And we're going to go through a few links, and then we're going to open up for the brainstorming in the chat. Now, I have to say, nobody contacted me ahead of time to say you wanted to come on camera. So this could be interesting if people aren't participating. So hopefully, if you do want to come on camera, though, and you didn't let me know ahead of time, go ahead and just type in the chat, just type stage so that I know you'd like to come on stage, and I'll share the link kind of secretly. Well, not secretly, but anyway, we don't want to end up with any trolls today. So Silvana says it's 29 degrees Celsius, quite hot. I don't know exactly what that translates to, but I know 37-ish, I think, is the same as our 100 degrees. So yeah, 29 would be warm. Okay, Note Effects says hi to everyone. Marco said, I love we're getting the weather report from around the world. Marco says it's partially cloudy in Modena, Italy. So Corbin Ball is here and says it's sunny and 54 in Bellingham, Washington. Yeah, I think most of us, we're kind of all mostly in the 50s here in the US, it sounds like. Matt is here from Champion Logistics in Chicago. So welcome, everybody. This is great. All right. So a few links. And my husband, Alan, is behind the scenes as always. Those of you who are regulars, you know that. So he's going to share the links as we go along. I have to say, they're not in YouTube right yet. I'll get those put up there later. Anybody have a Monday yesterday? It was like everything I tried to do went sideways. All the tech decided to conflict and rebel. So they're not in YouTube yet. So anyway. All right, but our first link I wanted to share, just kind of something to think about. There's been a lot of discussion, I guess, lately about using AI to create content and create things. I came across this article in Rolling Stone. They actually used AI software to not recreate, but create, quote, new songs from artists who died, like Jimi Hendrix and Nirvana. And so anyway, it's interesting. So, if you go read this article and you have any feedback on it, let me know what you think. It's kind of creepy, I guess, in a way. But anyhow, so there's that. And it's being used not just for this, it's being used in other ways too. All right. Navin is here from Waterloo, Canada. Navin, I hope I got your name right. Victoria. Oh, the LinkedIn chat. That's a good point. I realized a few weeks ago when I got a comment on LinkedIn that people can watch it on LinkedIn, even though it's not actually streaming to LinkedIn, because the YouTube broadcast is playing there. But unfortunately, I can't see LinkedIn comments. So if you are joining us, so Victoria, thanks for bringing this up, because if you are joining us from LinkedIn, I won't be able to see your comment till later, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm still working on getting approved for LinkedIn Live. Now that I've been broadcasting, doing live events for over a year, you would hope that they would eventually decide to let me be a broadcaster. Oh, Jay. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad. I was trying to think note effect. I knew who that was. So Jay, thanks for clarifying. Matt says it's sunny and 50s in Chicago. EvCon Fitness Hadley is here from Houston. She says it's a cool 76. Well, Hadley, you're warmer than most of us. Victoria is here from Santa Rosa, California. Sun just came out of the fog. All right. Al is here from Montclair, New Jersey. Oh, I love it. See, this is always great when somebody has a little like tagline to help remember their names. Navin says it's like Gavin with an N. So Patty's here. Patty Shaughnessy says, she says messing with greatness. I'm not sure if the AI. Yeah. I think that's a little creepy. I know it's becoming popular and maybe it has a place. There was a class. I didn't take it, but there was a class on how to use AI to create content, and I just kind of opted to not take that. Not going to go there. So anyway, okay, moving on. We're getting sidetracked here. The next article, I just love the title. It's "Dude, Where's My Couch?" But it's really interesting. Here's the link for that one. It was an interesting article about how community can happen where you least expect it. This was a group of people, and it was actually a company messed up and sent out a bulk email to their customers telling them that there was a problem with this particular couch that they'd ordered. But I forget, it was like 200 or 300 people that were all like CC'd on the email. And so the group just kind of started bonding and forming a community and like, hey, I live here. Where do you live? And so people started actually doing meetups. And so anyway, it's just kind of a funny article, but it does, where it ties in with the trade show world is it just goes to show that people do want community. I mean, look at this. I mean, everybody's here and chatting with each other. It's a community. So anyway, so that one I thought was kind of just a fun and interesting, quirky article. Candy is here and she says AI is creepy. Yeah. I still need somebody to really show me how it's done right, I think. Okay, moving on, doing some industry updates here. UFI and some other groups, I don't remember who they all were, but went together and put together a guide for reopening events. So we're going to share that link here in just a second. Here we go. So there's the link for that. So, as we're talking about things starting to reopen and what's going to be happening and how events are actually going to work, this is a good thing to check out. Joan says AI is critical to all of it. That's true. AI by itself is not bad. I think that it has a lot of potential. I think it's how it's used and using it responsibly, I guess we could say. Wendy says, hello from Connecticut. Oh, okay. So yeah. So that is true. And like I said, the LinkedIn is, you can watch on LinkedIn. You just can't necessarily be involved in the conversation. So I'm hoping that soon they decide to let me broadcast live in LinkedIn. I don't know why they're just, nobody knows. Everybody says most people have applied like 5 times before they finally get accepted, and who knows. So anyway, it's one of those things. Okay, the next article is from TSNN. It's about the data that they've been collecting around the losses in our industry and kind of putting some backbone to it. I actually sat in on a webinar last week with someone from the Chicago hospitality market and talked about a lot of the individual statistics from Chicago about just how hard they've been hit. And so anyway, so this article on TSNN compiles data or mentions data from SEER and from various hospitality industry associations and talks about just really the impact that all of this has had on our industry, which we all know, but to have that quantified data and be able to actually share that and talk about that with people, I think is really important. The next article is from USA Today. And as things start to reopen, Q3, but especially Q4 is starting to look really wild at this point. And everything, like everybody who had events this spring are now backing them to the fall. So Comic-Con announced that they are going to have, and this is a really long link, but anyway, Comic-Con announced they are going to have their event over Thanksgiving weekend, and they're getting a lot of flack over that. But, what are you going to do? The venues are starting to fill up for all the dates in the fall. And so it's just, it's going to be interesting to see how all of this comes together. But anyway, let's see. Oh, okay, Joan, I think we're talking two different kinds of AI. Responsible use, it's to ensure people who can't hear be able to hear those who speak softly, have regional or other accents. Why is it creepy? That's the good use of AI. The bad use of AI is using it to, what should I say? Not scrape content, but if you go look at this Rolling Stone article, you'll have an idea what I mean. They actually use the AI to analyze the songs, the way that these musicians had written their songs, and then the AI, the software, actually wrote songs in the style of the deceased artist. So, and other people are promoting. The class that I talked about was that they were promoting how to use AI to create your own content, basically almost like a mashup, kind of, taking pieces of things and then the AI kind of mashes it up. Corbin's on here today. Corbin, you should weigh in on this topic because you probably know a whole lot more about it than any of the rest of us. Yeah. So thanks. Anyway, yeah, Joan. So yeah, like I said, it's like any other tool. It has good purposes and it has some kind of strange on the fringe purposes. Oh, like Candy said, yeah, the fake pictures of people or making it look like people are saying things they didn't say. Yes, that's a perfect example of the creepy side, Candy. Yeah, the fake pictures or the fake videos. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, see, this is exactly what I wanted. Conversation starters. So we've all learned a lot today. Okay. The next couple of links are both Las Vegas related. Vegas has been doing all kinds of things behind the scenes while we've all been staying home, but they've had two big openings recently. The first one is the West Hall, the new West Hall of the Convention Center. And so we're going to share, here's a link for that. So you can go take a little tour and kind of see. They've actually had, I think, a couple of small events in the center just to kind of launch it. So anyway, it looks beautiful. I mean, I can't wait to see it in person. It just looks incredible. The second one is they finally got the tunnel done, the underground loop that Elon Musk has been working on for so long. So there's actually the Las Vegas Sun did a little video. It's not a really exciting video because you're actually like in the car and going through the tunnel. But anyway, it gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. So, and I forget, I think they said they're going to have 40 cars or 60 cars or something like that and transporting, hundreds of people an hour eventually. So anyway, that'll be interesting. Savannah says, what are your thoughts on the event that went live in Barcelona for 5,000 and they will follow everyone to see the results? Interesting. Marco, you're on here today. You should tell us what you've heard so far, if anything, about that event. Yeah, I don't know. And then, of course, the latest here in the U.S. this morning, we all woke up to hear that J&J vaccine has been paused. So, yeah, I don't know. Things just continually evolve in this world that we live in now. Oh, yes, the links will be in YouTube later. You may not have caught, Wendy, I said that yesterday. I normally try to put those in the night before, but yesterday, all the tech was fighting me. And so it didn't happen. But I will put these links in later in YouTube so you can check back. Or they're over in the Facebook feed as Alan puts them in. All right. Let me see. Let me get a quick drink here. Yeah, good point, Joan. I wondered about that as I read those who had gotten the J&J shots, but hopefully no problems. You're welcome, Wendy. Oh, so I missed the one from Mark. Oh, I've got comments popping in up behind here. Marcus says the event went well, was well run and disciplined. So that's good news. Corbin says AI will have a huge impact on society, as profound in this decade as PCs were in the 80s, the internet in the 90s, the web in the zeros, and mobile in the tens. So yes, and I don't doubt that AI has a lot of potential. I just, like I said, the article did exactly what it was supposed to do. It sparked a lot of conversation and thought on what's appropriate. So Marco said they are still monitoring the people who attended the Barcelona event, but so far no problems. So, and it all goes back to everybody being responsible, and we have to hope. And honestly, I have to say that my thought is that B2B events will probably do better than B2C, just because I think that, in the B2B conferences and trade shows, people are going to be there for more serious purposes. I do worry about the safety of people at, say, a Comic-Con, just because you're dealing with the general public and all kinds of things. And anyway, that's just my thoughts. You can weigh in on what you think. Joan says, for what contingencies will groups meeting now or within the next 2 weeks for anyone who attends and gets a blood clot? It appears younger people are at greater risk. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't have time this morning to actually read the articles. So yeah, it's all evolving. I mean, every day we wake up and we just don't know. Polly says hi to everyone, and thanks for sharing your links and insight. You're welcome. Savannah says she agrees. Okay, let's see here. All right. We got so far off on AI that we're like not getting into the heart of our topic, but I guess maybe in one way it is. The future of trade shows, how will AI be involved? That might be a good topic for another day. Maybe Corbin, maybe we should have you as a guest on Virtual Lunch one of these days, and we could talk about that. Okay, so the next couple of articles, the first one is from Event Manager Blog, and talking about why trade shows still matter. And I thought this was an excellent article. It really profiles a lot of different things about trade shows and why they're important, and why face-to-face trade shows are important and will continue to be important. So I recommend you go check that one out on Event Manager Blog. And then the next one actually comes from Forbes magazine. And I don't know I don't know really anything about the author of the article, but I thought this one line was really good. He was talking about how all businesses have kind of been coasting and been able to get by the last year without going to trade shows. But it says when everybody's coasting, I mean, the idea was when everybody's coasting, everybody's equal. And then the quote is, but when companies start pedaling again, companies that ignore trade shows will fall behind. So I thought that was a really good quote coming from that article. And the author is Bill Connerly. So didn't ring a bell for me. Let's see. All right, the next one. Okay, so the next thing is then I just wanted to kind of start this whole conversation about where is the future of trade shows? Where are we going? I did, and this gets a little bit, this gets a little bit kind of matrixy or something. I actually, in 2010, I wrote a blog post predicting the future of trade shows in 2020. Little did I know, right? But anyway, so then in January of last year, I went back and I wrote this 2020 perspective as predicted in 2010. So Alan's going to put that link in for you, but you can go find it on Trade Show Insights. But it was things like, let's see. Okay. So no one can forget the dreary days back in 2009 and 2010. Now, this is the part that I wrote in 2010, when trade show attendance was plummeting throughout nearly all industries. At that time, many people were predicting the demise of the trade show industry. Whoops. There we go. Sacrificed to the new trend of virtual shows. But as the future unfolded, that didn't prove to be the case. In fact, the two worlds have found a way to coexist in harmony. Most physical shows now have a virtual component to extend their events throughout the year. I wrote this in 2010. Some have gaming system style interface offering nearly lifelike interactions. P.S. Not a fan of that. You can actually see and talk with other exhibitors and attendees right from your office or other location. For smaller shows with smaller budgets, there are a myriad of other options that still provide an enhanced, although less realistic experience. The term pop-up exhibit has a new meaning, with most shows offering interactive show floor maps where each booth is clickable, bringing up a photo and FAQ sheet for that exhibitor. So that's what I wrote in 2010. So, it's just interesting that things are finally, I've been trying to push people towards having virtual components just because of the reach, the massive reach that you can get by having that added component. But it's, now it's suddenly it's on everybody's radar. Joan says she liked our last platform better, where we interacted differently. This allows more inclusion if one is deaf or hard of hearing, not for people who are blind or have low vision. Yeah, and that's a big part of right now. I mean, trying to get all the pieces together so that, everybody's feeling included. What exhibitors are now using 3D printing on site to create different stands. Interesting. I haven't heard about using 3D printing to basically create I think from what you're saying, Joan, is like creating the booth on the fly. So that's kind of interesting. I've seen exhibitors doing 3D printing in their booths where they're actually like printing samples or things like that to hand out. So, but anyway, interact with each other. If you see a comment that you have something you definitely want to weigh in on, please share. But let's talk about, I want to talk about the idea of building connections, because I think that's been one of the biggest things that's come out of this past year, is people are feeling like they're building new connections. I mean, like, my goodness, we've got Marco here from Italy and Silvana from Brazil, and we're making all these international connections and connections with people that we haven't actually met in person before. So what can we do as we go back to physical shows? How can we really create that feeling of connection and community? Building people's relationships with each other and exhibitors to attendees and vice versa. Victoria says AI at trade shows could be great, letting attendees know when to come back to a crowded booth for a demo, when to speak to a rep or see the show. Yeah. So, and I didn't mean to bash AI earlier. That really wasn't my point. It was just more about how some people are kind of going too far with it. Great articles about 3D builds. It will allow much more flexibility. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I think that I know one thing as far as talking about exhibit design, I know one thing that's happening a lot as the shows are coming back is that exhibitors are doing rentals because they don't really know, or maybe they're going to do a smaller booth than what they've done in the past, and how they're going to need to adapt for that and change. So they're just renting the booths for now. We actually did last year. I had Mel from Classic Exhibits, which I haven't seen him pop up today. I don't know if he's here, but Mel and I did a discussion about how exhibits need to adapt. I also did, and Alan, you can put that link up there. I also did a blog post / podcast last year on adapting exhibits for the near future. And so we talked a lot about, let me take this down. We talked a lot about how, exhibits are going to have to adapt in so many ways, whether that be exhibit design, the booth staffing, just the way that they attract people to the booth. So all of those kinds of things are going to need to change as we go forward. For one thing, as far as booth attractions, the whole touchy-feely stuff, having hands-on demos, at least for right now, people aren't going to want to participate in that. Doing, and this is not to say that the crowd gathering people, the people who are there to draw in a crowd, like entertainers and stuff, it's not saying they're bad, but it's just, do you want to draw a crowd right now? So, there's a lot of different things to think about. Okay, so I'm falling behind on the comments here. Candy says, what type of materials are they using in these 3D printers? The printers are huge to get into the halls. Material handling. Yeah, Candy, I know you're always looking at that, that $ of the material handling. So that is a good question. I think a lot of the 3D printers are the smaller ones, especially if they're printing a booth is different, but if you're printing smaller things. Victoria says projection mapping for exhibit booths. Oh yes, I love that. Change the environment as the show goes on, not have to ship custom booths, just project on white walls or shapes. I have seen some awesome examples of that. I have one, I actually, in 2019, shortly before everything changed, I had created a new presentation all about engagement. And I hope to be able to get back to that. It may need to be adapted somewhat, but one of the things is projection mapping. I mean, the example that I showed in the presentation was a dump truck, and they were actually projecting on the side. They had their dump truck in the booth that they were showing, and then they projected on the side of that as like a big giant billboard. It was so cool. So yeah. Candy has looked into some 3D printing of tiny houses using concrete and stucco. Oh my, wow, hadn't heard of them doing that before. What is sustainability of things printed in 3D? Are they portable and reusable? Good question. I would guess that it would probably depend on what they were made out of and, how, obviously concrete and stucco, probably not too portable, but good question. Joan weighs in, responding back to Candy. She found some great articles in the last days. And yes, tiny houses, some using sand to do full hotels. All electronics are not sustainable, especially as people upgrade frequently. Yeah. So lots to consider. Savannah loves what Victoria shared about the projection mapping. And Joan says, yes, it is portable. Yes, reusable. Or yes, it should be, maybe. I don't know. I'm interpreting comments here. So, but no, I love it. I love how you guys are all having conversation back and forth. Now you see why I wanted people on camera though. All right. So let's see. So a couple other articles that I had put on the blog. Oh yeah. Alan just handed me a note. The Van Gogh projection mapping display, the exhibit. Has anybody seen that online? I'm so excited. It's actually coming to Kansas City. They keep putting teasers in Facebook telling me it's coming to Kansas City, but they won't give any details. So I don't know when, I don't know where. I'm assuming probably it's going to be at Union Station. That's where all the cool exhibits are these days. But it's Van Gogh's art projected like all around you. And so you're like surrounded by, yeah, you walk into it and you get to experience and interact with the art. So, that's a really, really cool thing. All right, I'm falling behind again. Candy says successful projection mapping is very reliant on show lighting, which is hard to predict. Oh, she had an epic fail with it. So good point to keep in mind of test out your projection mapping and see how it's going to work. Victoria said the crowds concern me personally more than touching displays. Those are easily kept clean and hand sanitizers are quick to fix. And Victoria also said Candy had a good point. Joan says, going in December, we hope, says accessible and we don't know where or if scooter will fit. They say only wheelchairs. Oh, I bet you're talking about the Van Gogh exhibit. I'm jealous if you get to go. Well, hopefully we get to have it here. I mean, we will have it here, they say, but hopefully Alan and I have shots by then and we can actually go. So, yeah, but I think it's going to be amazing. All right. So another article that I want to share is that I did. I guess I don't have a slide for that one. This was a really controversial one. I did it back in 2015, talking about what trade shows can learn from IKEA. And it got controversy because of a couple of things. People misinterpreted where I was going with it, first of all, I think. But a lot of people who are anti-IKEA and say they always get lost didn't like it. Well, that wasn't so much what I was trying to point out. My concept was, how can we make trade shows more like IKEA and less like just, these grids of rows and rows of booths? How can you make it more interactive? How can you make it more experiential? Because basically, if you think about IKEA, it's a self-guided tour and you go through and you get to see the products in what you would call lifestyle displays. So you get to see them in real world applications. So it's more about inspiring discovery and telling a story with the products. So that's more where I was trying to go with this. How can we take a trade show and instead of just having rows and rows and rows of booths, how can we make it more experiential? And then there was a second article that I did in 2017, which, Alan, if you want to put that one up, about reinventing the show floor. And I gave some actual real world examples in there. One of my absolute favorites was a medical show where they did an ER, a simulated ER. And so they had, the different exhibitors all participated together and they put together this display where you could actually see all the products in a real world, and they did these scheduled simulations on the show floor and people got to actually experience how the products were put into use. That's where I was trying to go with the IKEA article, was how can we make trade shows more more moments of discovery? And so there's those two. Oh, Polly gave us the Van Gogh website link. Although, like I said, when you go there, it just tells you the list of cities. It doesn't have actual schedule, or maybe the ones coming up soon have their schedule, but not all of them. Okay, so let's see. So what else do I have here? Talking about the in-booth activities. One thing I've wanted to see go away for a long time: lose the fishbowl. It's interesting that, and I was in a industry chat last week and it came up again, that now is the perfect time to just blow everything up and start over and reinvent the whole industry, not just as it relates to, social distancing and floor plan layout and that kind of stuff, but how can we just change the whole industry? And obviously this is a topic for more than just one virtual lunch, but there's so many things that we can do that could be different. How the show's designed, how the people interact, how we build community. There's so many different things. And so on that, I want to remind, if you weren't here last time, you didn't hear my sneak peek, that coming in June, I'm going to be doing an event called Spark, Reimagine Expos and Events. It's going to be an online event, online conference, and we're going to talk about all of these kinds of things. How can we completely reimagine events? How can we, not just virtual, not just physical, but all of it combined? What can we do? How are some groups already reinventing? We're going to have some special guests that are going to tell us about what they've done and what they're preparing for, and how shows can look different, interact different. But one of the things, one of the trends, one of the things to keep an eye on is crowdsourcing. So I want to just throw out to you, I'm going to crowdsource for Spark. So if you have a topic that you really want to learn more about, let me know. If you have a case study that you'd like to share as part of Spark, let me know. This needs to be, I want this to be not just a 2 or 3 day event, but I want this to be a conversation that happens, that starts in June, sparks the conversation, sparks new ideas, and people really start looking at how we can reinvent our industry. So Polly says, so looking forward to this moment of innovation and making shows better and truly inclusive for everyone. Yeah, exactly. Ramah says, yes, lose the fishbowl, hat, or any other drop the card in container. Yes, I have wanted this to go away for so long. Marco says he agrees too. Jones says, March 2020 was the time to start blowing up the industry. Many instead just sat on their hands saying we'd soon return to normal, only impact on old people. We missed a year of planning. That, sadly, that is true. That a lot of people did. And a lot of people just canceled their events last year. They didn't even try to do anything virtual because they just said, oh, we'll just wait and we'll do it next year. Well, now their events are coming around again and they're still having to reinvent. So, you guys know I've been trying to reinvent. Well, I've been trying to reinvent since before March 2020, but I've been really trying to reinvent this last year. And so I think you guys are going to be in for some great conversations and some great ahas during Spark coming in June. But, that's what virtual lunches are for too. I want these to be opportunities for you to explore and learn and figure out how you can change and move forward. So, and Polly says, amen, Joan. All right. So let me see. Let me just check real quick if there's anything else. Oh, just one other quick thing I want to share. Whoops. Let me go back here and take this down. Your future is created by what you do today, not tomorrow. So like Joan said, it was, last year, kind of like they say, the perfect time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Well, if you missed the boat last year, now is the time to start reinventing and reimagining the industry. So thank you for joining us today. We had a very lively conversation. And, as you can see, there's still so much yet to cover. So connect with me. Let me know what you would like to see as part of Spark. And we will be back here for another virtual lunch in 2 weeks. And then as we ramp up and move towards June, you'll start hearing a lot more about the Spark event. And, just feel free to reach out to me with any questions or any thoughts that you have. And, I just appreciate all of you so much. And Wendy has a comment here. She says, I think it's been hard for marketers and event planners to wrap their head around new approaches. Now, a year plus, it's my hope there's a bit less hesitancy now. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Joan says, thanks. Savannah says, thanks, learning a lot. So I am so thankful that you guys joined today. This has been a very just nonstop conversation and we ran long, but I appreciate everybody and look forward to having you back. Real, digital, virtual, it's people business. Yeah, Marco, you're so right. All right. So I will put up these goodbyes from everybody real quick, and I will see you in 2 weeks at our next virtual lunch. Thanks.